Will, talk to me.
ABC Tuesday.
They took his daughter. She's coming home alive.
Will Trent, the series critics are calling powerful must-see TV, continues to thrill.
Shouldn't we strategize before we go in there?
If we screw up this case, a cop killer walks free.
With the riveting conclusion to a 2-part season premiere.
GBI!
Help me!
Get down!
Will Trent, all new Tuesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This winter, we're hosting a book club while we prepare for our 10-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy, and each week we'll discuss one book from our winter book club roster. By using our literary background, we'll provide our flash analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This is part 2 of this week's episode, where we're discussing One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. As a warning for part 1, and then I will just insert this into part 2, so pretend it's original. I am at my mom's. We're recording this the Monday before Thanksgiving, so I'm a little echoey, and then if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I don't know what lighting situation is happening, but I don't have a filter on. I just have a lot of weird light on me.
And it is, as Jack says, Monday morning, so there's construction happening across the street. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, so you wanted to talk about Blunder. I love that Blunder is the name.
You know, because there's so many different passages from the book, right? These
Yeah.
little rhymes to learn about the cards,
Mm-hmm.
to learn about the history of Blunder. Blunder was called Blunder because of the Shepherd King's blunder.
It can be overt, guys. And
Yeah.
that's making me kind of feel like I need to look back into my own style of writing where it doesn't have to be Sarah J. Maas level of there's this lore, Scottish lore, and then, in there is a character, and that one character, and this super weird name, and I'm going to turn it around
Yeah.
and rewrite the letter. And if you look at it in the reflection, it actually means this. He fucked up. It's a blunder.
Yeah, I think because it's a Gothic setting, it helps, right? It feels very fairy tale. It feels very allegorical.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
the whole world and this plot and these characters are their own nursery rhyme for us. They
Yeah.
are teaching us about the concept of love.
Yep.
As spooky as, some of those rhymes are, some of those excerpts are, I loved every moment of it because it taught us about the world, but it kind of foreshadows what's going to come next or something important about how the card is used in this setting. I can't say enough good things.
I know. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna read more bad things.
Okay.
I don't know, so that we can give it more time. Because otherwise, you and I are just gonna be like, okay, this is awesome. You know what's hilarious is that a fair amount of people really hated that they used trees instead of oh my god, or damn, trees are the curse.
I loved that.
Because that within itself is a clue.
Yeah, it is. I mean, why do we say God? We're taking our Lord's name in vain. We're taking on the name of our higher power. And it's almost a call for your higher power to curse whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
If they believe in the spirit of the forest, if all of their surnames are trees, they worship trees, it makes sense that they would use the word trees.
I love it.
I think it's simple but ingenious. It's just part of the world building factor.
Trees. So some people said that they liked Elspeth and the fact that she is a realistic heroine
Mhm.
where she has no particular great powers to her and she just be struggling along versus other comments saying she feels underdeveloped and kind of useless. So here's something about her where you have two camps, right? But we all agree Elspeth is a normal girl. She doesn't have much magic to her. She doesn't have much power to her. And she is just kind of at the whim of other people.
Yeah.
I love that, and then the other people don't like that, and I can understand why that might be frustrating to
Yeah.
read a character that is at the whim of other people. Her strength is based off of a man.
It makes sense for her situation. I think in a different setting, if she
Mhm.
was not infected and did not have the nightmare in her head, if she was a different character in a different book,
Yeah.
it would be frustrating that she's not at least physically capable of taking care of herself, or she maybe has more wits about her. She's none of those things because she's never had the opportunity to develop, right?
Yeah.
She's been sent to a country home, lives with simple people, like they themselves are simple as well.
Mhm, mhm.
She's lived in fear her entire life. The only thing
Yeah.
she's good at is hiding because that's what it takes to survive.
And even then, you said something you kinda I don't know, you kinda grazed over it. I was like, "You're freaking right." Her own wittiness, you could argue isn't even hers.
Mhm.
It's, like, when I say wittiness, I don't mean her being funny. I mean, like, her wits, like, her knowing, "Okay, it's time to run." Her knowing,
Mhm.
like, "Maybe I should tell them or not tell them truth or not." Like, that's the nightmare who's telling her all of these things. And when you think about it, she's been assisted her entire life and coddled even by the voice in her head.
She has not been able to develop since she was 9 years old. That was the last time she was an independent being. And even then,
Yep.
she wasn't independent, she was a child.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that she is unable to be the heroine we might be accustomed to in a fantasy novel.
Mhm.
To a point you made earlier, everything about her relies on a man inside her head. Like she does not know what it means to be a woman on her own,
Yep.
right? She relies on the nightmare to get her out of dangerous situations that might have, resulted in worse circumstances for another woman. I think we also have to keep that in mind as we're reading her that she has a setback, and that setback is, or, you could say it's a step forward, however you want to describe it, but she is still 9 years old at the end of the day.
I mean, yeah, she's 9 years old at the end of the day, and, like, that's also why I think her decision to move forward with her romance with Raven is so important. I also feel like because it's her choosing, right? Like, she's
Right.
choosing this next level, she's choosing, life as a woman and everything like that, right? I think it also makes her relationship with Ione really important
Mhm.
because this is an element that has nothing to do with the nightmare card. Now you can say the nightmare card has like warned her to be wary of the maiden card and she's learned the consequences of that. But there's other elements to it, right? There's that
Mhm.
level of like you don't want to say it, but there's a level of jealousy of like, wait, now she's beautiful, but at the same time you're worried about her and you
Mhm.
don't want that. None of the words were said. You
Yeah.
never had Elspeth sitting there being like, "I'm so jealous of her," and I don't even think her thoughts were outright jealous,
Mhm.
but there were tones, right? Like,
Right.
"Oh, so now she's beautiful, and now she has all these things." Now, would Elspeth want that life? No. You can be jealous, but not want that same thing, right?
Right.
And then it grows into worry, and then it grows into, "Wait, but she's looking out for me, and is my
Mhm.
cousin even there anymore?" And that is a growth in that female growth, that female story that
Mhm.
is separate from the king, and I like again, normally I would not be a fan of like, "Great, so you're telling me that the only thing that makes her strong is a man," and all that stuff, like, things that I would normally be, like, miffed about.
Mhm.
I think in this case, it enhances the parts of her that is inherently just her and sometimes the female experience.
Right. In those moments, oftentimes the nightmare is a detriment
Yeah.
to the relationship with Ione, right? The nightmare doesn't like Ione, thinks that
Mhm.
she's just kind of a
Boring.
bumbling fool and
Yeah.
boring. So we start to see the complexities that have been injected into their relationship, which used to be so innocent. And
Mhm.
that's forced growth. And Elspeth is growing despite the nightmare and despite or because of the situation that these two women have been put in. And I think that's actually really beautiful. I can't wait for you to read the second book. Granted, I'm only halfway through it, but I think there's some real complexity between Ione and Elspeth that is so inherently female and so inherently about growing up
Mhm.
and how your relationships with women change as you get older that I think was really, really well done.
And you even get some subtext with Ione too, where, like during that game of Truth or Truth, we have this moment where Elspeth says, "Do you really want this? Is this something that you wanted?" And Ione says, I'm gonna butcher this, but something along the lines of power, right? Like sometimes
Mhm.
you really want power, you need to fight for that power and everything. I think that gives you clues to who she might have been mentally, because she is
Mhm.
her father's daughter.
Yep.
And we find out that who her father like, we find out that the uncle is, like, the biggest piece of shit that there ever is,
Yep.
and we find out, like, maybe that influence might have like, this understanding, maybe not even influence, we'll call it understanding. Elspeth has always had her rich father to take care of her at the end of the day. Her aunt and uncle could throw her off in the streets, and her dad will take care of her. He has already proven to be there for her financially, at the
Mhm.
very least, right? Ione doesn't have that with her family.
Yeah.
That it will fall upon her. She must have had in the back of her head this idea of what's responsibility is and what she can do. I think you even get a hint of that when they first have an argument early on, right? In the
Mhm.
beginning of the book. I do appreciate that seeing that there too.
It's true to its gothic origin,
Mhm.
this book, but also true to the female experience. This is a
Yeah.
man's world, and no one's going to look out for me but myself.
This
So
is a man's world. Sorry.
I need to take advantage of whatever situations are thrown at me that I can take advantage of.
So, Ione and her uncle and everything, where Ione is not her equal in that stance, right?
By
In
her, you mean Elspeth.
Elspeth, yeah. So Ione is not Elspeth's equal in socioeconomic background, right? It's interesting then that the family that she does connect to is someone who is her equal, if not
Hmm.
above. And
Yeah.
that is Raven's family, that's Elm, and I think that that speaks to it too.
Yeah. Well, let's also talk about the fact that Raven is literally her father's successor
Talk
as
about daddy issues.
captain of the Destriers. So this is where I think goes back to my conversation from earlier. In a lot of ways, Raven and Elspeth are reenacting their traumas, but in doing so, they find solace in each other.
What is her trauma that he's reenacting, or his trauma?
He represents everything her father was.
But what does she represent for him? Because we can see that, right? Like,
She is like his brother Emery,
that he
i-
can save.
infected and someone he can
Yeah.
save, or he
Okay,
feels obligated to save.
we're aligned. And probably easier to save because she doesn't feel as far gone
Right, as Emery.
as his brother.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I was like, "Wait, what?" So, like, line me up, I'm here, I'm there, we're good. I had Spanish lesson before here, my brain is translating back now to this. I'll find any excuse to why my brain is the way it is. I love the fact that he's her father's replacement, and the
Mhm.
moment when they shake hands with each other, I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, this is the best." Like, in your face daddy trauma
Oh,
issues?
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I will say the first time we encounter Raven, we don't know it's Raven. It's on the highway. He's a
Yeah, yeah.
highwayman. The second the description was Elspeth could smell his clothes and cedar scent, I was like, "Oh, this is the love interest."
If it's cedar, if it's clothes, it's love.
Well, it's the first description of somebody's scent.
Smell. Yeah,
And
no.
then the second it comes up again with Raven, he smells like cloves in the outside. I'm like, "Oh, I know who this is."
Okay, before we get into Raven, because Raven deserves his own encore, I do want to call out the Swiss Family Robinson of it all, of the family. Like, they're just so part. Is it the Partridge Family that was also the Highwaymen family? It felt like a 70s TV show. Like, you have the Brady Bunch, you had Partridge Family. Like, it's just like, hi, we're this family, and we're gonna be highwaymen to steal for our son slash cousin slash brother. I just thought that was a really funny, cute. I know it's not meant to be funny or cute, but I thought it was funny and cute. And Elm, I am slow clap, love Elm.
Yeah, I think he's a very complex character.
Yeah.
I think he's harder to like when you're strictly in Elspeth's point of view.
I don't know. I liked him
You had him just
immediately.
you can have Elm, I'll take Raven.
Not at all. We're duking this out.
Anyway, I think he's an interesting character. I think there's a lot to learn about him still. that
Mhm,
I've learned
mhm.
about him so far in the second book. His caginess makes sense. It's
Yeah.
aggravating because I'm like, why are you keeping the two of them apart? But there are times where you're like, is he going to turn on them? Is he ultimately going to try and win his father, the king's favor if
Mhm.
things go sideways? Even knowing Elspeth's truth, that the soul of the shepherd king inside of her head,
Yeah, yeah.
at the end of the day, he's still loyal to Raven and Raven's family.
Yep.
And I think he is another great character that is worthy of examination.
I think he's a good example of having such a good developed side character
Mhm.
who have their own stories. Like, we don't have to be in his head to get it. We can
Yeah.
be in Elspeth's head, who he's antagonistic to her. I think she's just more of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I respect that. As a writer, I respect that a lot, that we get that there's trauma. We get why he's doing this. We get why he feels the need to fight back. We get why he can't be home. Like, there's a lot of things that just make sense with that.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm like, I love so much of it. Like, Elspeth, like, she cried at the times I'd cry. Like,
She
she just was kind of like whimpering when the times I'd whimper.
Yeah, she's allowed to. It's all overwhelming.
And now a word from our sponsors.
I don't know about you, Jack, but when it's gift giving season, as much as I love to get everyone gifts, I always stop and get myself something as well because you never know if it's going to be a win or bust with everybody else's presents to you.
The real gift is the one we can give ourselves, particularly the ones we can order from Quince. Quince has the most amazing everyday luxury items, but at an affordable price.
This is the time of year where those iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters from Quince are the perfect snuggly thing to wear to the office, to wear on the couch.
I've been visiting my mom, who now lives in the East Coast, and it is cold there, and I do not have the proper clothes. And I've actually been ordering some of my clothes from Quince because all items on Quince are 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They're able to do that by partnering direct with top factories and cutting out the cost of middleman, and passes on the savings to you. And you can get sweaters and coats, which is what I got.
Not only do they use premium fabrics and finishes, they also work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. If you haven't treated yourself yet, get yourself that present you'll love this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/booktalk.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
So good, so good, so good.
Amazing deals on activewear for all the ways you move are at Nordstrom Rack stores now.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I love these new Nikes.
I always score at Rack.
Stock up on new gear from the best brands in the game, starting at just $40. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Hi there, I am Sarah Jane Case, and I'm the host of your new favorite show, Enneagram and Coffee. This podcast is dedicated to discussing the beautiful and hard parts of being human. We discuss the Enneagram, a personality map that is taking over the world, for increased self-compassion, personal growth, and healthier relationships. Listen to Enneagram and Coffee on the iHeart app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, so let me read you one more negative comment.
Okay.
This one's pretty simple. Raven, you. Okay, let me build off of that. The romance felt half-baked, half-developed. The romance was lacking. Several people did not like Raven You. Don't know how I'm supposed to believe this romance. And where's the smut? All right, that's a fair one. So let's talk about the romance before we get into. I mean, romance will just go. We'll branch into Raven. But we already
Sure.
talked about the romance, so I don't know.
Well, again, the romance is complicated in that they both represent something that should be traumatic for them or is speaking to their issues, right?
Mhm.
Elspeth's daddy issues, Raven's savior complex. That's not a great starting point for any relationship. But when you think about it, the majority of their time together is spent on the common goal of
Yeah.
finding these cards and trying to reverse I was going to call it blight, but the curse on Blunder. And it's not like a lot of time passes in this book.
I think what's interesting about their relationship is that there's not much push-pull
Mhm.
of, "I want you, I don't want you." There's
Right.
tension, there's tension from the get-go. I was the entire time I was like, "Please don't be the bad please don't be the bad guy. Please don't be working with
Mhm.
Hawk. Oh, thank God you're real. Like, you're the real you're actually the love interest." So, I was thrilled about that, very relieved. I feel like it was an interesting buildup for their love because if this is truly a duology, we don't have 7, 6, 3, or even 3 books to, like, get us far into, like, they're in love, they're not in love.
Mhm.
I felt like what I liked about them as a couple is that it felt very direct.
Yeah.
There are emotions there. Now, are they both kind of like, "I'm just pretending, wink. I'm also pretending, weak." But even then, it didn't feel real because it's like, why do you always answer a question with a question? Or do you
Mhm.
really like it was like they were both skirting around it. And because we, the reader, knew that there was an interest there, I felt like it was a more direct romance. And then we got to the romance. And so it was streamlined, which I'm okay with because the story had a lot of other things happening.
So I have thoughts and theories about this. I think the most obvious thing about these two is that there's a magnetism between the two of
Mhm.
them. And we don't quite understand why. I have a theory about that magnetism.
I don't wanna hear your theories. Your theories have been tainted with part of book 2.
That's fair. I'm not going to say that book 2 confirms it. I don't think it does, but I think there's a connection that is unexplained between the two
Yeah.
of them.
I will agree.
I also think the pacing of the romance is necessary to drive the plot of book 2. Because why should Raven care so much if she degenerates? If not for his savior complex and how happy he was after having sex with her, which was freaking
I
adorable.
was like and okay, so I'm jumping in. So Raven, what I love about him is, like, he cares, he's honorable,
Mhm.
but he's got just enough of a douchebag in him that I love. Like, the fact that, like, because it wasn't like, he came out to breakfast and was like, "Yeah, I had sex." Like,
Yeah, it was good.
it was good. I had a good time. Like, but he's also gonna, like, just really care like her and just kinda show that off. Like, he has no problems showing off his love for her and, whether it is savior complex and, it can start one way and grow. It can grow into more.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can't.
Yeah.
I think we also have to remember this is a 26 and 20-year-old. I think the
Oh, I forgot
love
he's 26, yeah.
I think the love is going to be simple. They have both been guarded for so long. Any vulnerability that they're willing to share is
Mhm.
automatically going to
Mhm.
create a connection because they're only vulnerable with those that they truly love.
Yeah. I mean, they're not even vulnerable with themselves sometimes.
Right, right. So for them to be able to be vulnerable, to speak their truth to each other, no wonder they're going to fall in love with this person. They've learned no better. They don't have enough life experience to say that that's not love.
Yeah. What's his degeneration again? Oh, he won't be able to use any of the cards.
Yeah, over the years.
Over the years, yeah, yeah. Oh, no. I mean, that's the perfect degeneration, though, but I also
Yeah,
love that that plot line is what made him stronger and
yeah.
faster and work harder and everything. I think he's just such a good combination of what you think is I mean, not think, he is honorable, he wants to take care of his brother, he's a protector, like, he's the right combination of protector and, well, douchebaggery, like, he'll
Mhm.
fuck some like, he'll fuck up Hoth's hand because Hoth hurt Elspeth, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I love that scene so much because her and Elm are just, like, casually having a conversation while he's in the background just kicking Hoth's ass.
Yeah, like, just
Just
another day.
yeah, he was like, "Is he normally like this?" "No, he's just, he really likes you." "Oh, wow." Just then stomps on his hand. Or
I did love that scene.
my other's favorite scene is when Hoth is Do you really care for my cousin? What is it about him that you like so much? He's tall. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too.
She had some spice to her. Like she's
Yeah,
not this like loud, spunky, in your face character, but Elspeth had some really good moments.
she did. Like, you can tell when that nightmare has rubbed off on her.
So tell me why Raven sparks like cuz you don't like men often.
Mhm.
Hence your female fiance. What is it about Raven that perked your interests?
First of all, he has a beak-like nose, and I love beak-like noses. Don't ask me why, I just do. He had very Kylo Ren vibes, to be
Mm,
honest. The
mhm.
black hair, the large nose, he's tall. It's my Severus Snape leaning appreciation of men. But also, I really do like that, and you've already spoken to it. I love the protector, but I'll fuck you up, and I don't care what the consequences are.
Yeah.
Who can say no? But I think he's so earnest.
Yeah.
When Raven and Elspeth make out in the chamber and then
Mm,
Elspeth runs away, later on, he's like, I was worried that I'd done something wrong. Like, he spent time thinking about it instead of
mhm.
being like, you're such a bitch. How dare you? Right. He didn't get egotistical about it. He's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, is she okay?
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
You can tell the, like, brain's more developed on that side there.
Hmm. Hmm.
It definitely is more of a he does think about it, and he doesn't take it personally either,
Right.
It's not like a, "Well, I'm gonna be annoyed too." It's, "I'm gonna care for her," and the fact that he doesn't waver from her when he finds out about the
Hmm.
nightmare, he's scared and he's worried for her, but there's never a moment of, he's not gonna not touch her or he's not
Yeah.
going to be there for her. I love all these little moments where he claims her and everything and all of those sweet moments. I will say, technically, this book is YA. I was looking at it and I'm like, "Ugh," and I
Yeah.
was thinking,
I mean, they're old for a YA book, but
they're not YA. Stop making things that are YA. I mean, and then I'm because I feel bad saying I want more spice. That is my only question to this world. My one question, my one understanding, and my lack thereof. What are the rules and propriety to this world? Because I thought I understood pretty quickly. You have the concept of courting, right? You have
right.
dowries. You have, all these things that give me very old timey vibes,
Very Regency era.
very Regency, if not earlier, vibes.
Yeah.
Then wouldn't having sex be a bigger deal? Is that an immediate, okay, you're automatically engaged? Then he kissed her pretty openly several times. They were
Mhm.
hugging and everything. And then you also have her 13-year-old sisters that were drinking wine at one point, and I was even confused with that, thinking like, okay, where are these girls? Who are these? Oh shit, you're the children.
Yeah.
Who am I? I was also had wine when I was that age too. So
But they're, like,
controlled,
openly
monitored.
drunk.
Yeah, I was not openly drunk. I was very controlled, monitored. So, that's the only question was the rules of society,
Yeah.
because I feel like everything about this entire romance, this entire book, I will argue, although maybe subtle, is pretty developed and
Yeah.
pretty well thought out. Their sex scene, personally, I wanted to explore more, not necessarily in a more smutty way, although we'll always say yes to that. I wanted to explore it more because I think that would have been a better way for me to understand this world. And what does her having sex for the first time mean? Because we have her talking about giving Alex a chase kiss that summer, a few summers
Yeah.
before, and everyone was
Yeah.
teasing her and everything, but that was a few kisses, and from what I can gather, that's the extent of her knowledge, was that one experience where she kissed a boy. So then she goes from kissing one boy to kissing Raven in the tower to having sex on the floor. I need to know, does that progression, is that an extreme statement?
Mhm.
Is that her declaring, "I am a woman, I'm not some old man in my head,"
Mhm.
or is that just kind of something that you'd almost expect with this world?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I do think the sisters being drunk at the market and on their birthday is pretty
Mhm.
revealing if they're only 13 or 14 years
Yeah.
old. I also had the same questions the day after they have sex, and Raven's
Mhm.
pretty open about how good he's feeling about it because that's
Yeah.
very outing for her,
Yeah.
not necessarily for him, right? As a
Yep.
male. So the fact that he was so open about it without fear of consequences was curious. I wouldn't expect that in this world. I would have expected more propriety, especially
Mhm.
if Lady You is like, well, I'll be your chaperone. That's how we'll get away with you coming to stay with us.
Exactly. Yeah.
But she never chaperones. So that is a question. I don't know if it's because this is an incestuous town that's been stuck like this for 500 years, and so their
So
ideas of
everyone can have
propriety.
sex and that's fine. And that's okay with everyone.
Yeah,
Like I think I'm willing to overlook that if I knew what having sex meant for her.
yeah, I agree.
Because I never got this moment where, because 20 is young, but it's also old enough to know what it means. So that's like, I think that's why it's such a unique perspective, because she's old enough to know what this step means for her. This isn't
Mhm,
just a, I like a boy, I'm going to do this. There is significance there. And
mhm.
I feel like that was a lost opportunity to maybe get that layer developed from her. And that's when I feel like sex is important in storytelling, because it reveals a lot about our heroines, our heroes, and everything, and everyone around.
I agree. I think that there could have been a little bit more intention with the scene and consequence with the scene that I don't think
Mhm.
there was. But I also don't know to the extent that the way it plays out is because of this magnetism and the underlying reason, if it exists, for the magnetism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess I have to finish the second book.
I know. I can't wait to do this. I'm listening to Stardust Thief, and then we have Book of Azrael, and then your girl's going in.
Yeah.
And then we have Throne of Glass.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that one, forgot. But it's easier because I can listen to things outside. But honestly, this was been one of my top favorite books of this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think this is my number one book. I
I will
still think about it, even though
Yeah.
I'm listening to other books.
I am going to desperately try to get her on the podcast.
Oh, I would love that.
Same. If you're listening.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we will be discussing The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you'd like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this winter, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle booktalkforbooktalk. Please, please, please share, tag us in your stories or your posts. We love to see them, and it's the best way to help the podcast grow.
Bye. I'm going through the comments. Someone wrote Nightmare as a pro, but they put like hot panting emojis next to it. I'm covering your face. Don't look at me. Okay, I'm covering your face.
I don't know about you, Jack, but when it's gift giving season, as much as I love to get everyone gifts, I always stop and get myself something as well, because you never know if it's going to be a win or bust with everybody else's presents to you.
The real gift is the one we can give ourselves, particularly the ones we can order from Quince. Quince has the most amazing everyday luxury items, but at an affordable price.
This is the time of year where those iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters from Quince are the perfect snuggly thing to wear to the office, to wear on the couch.
I've been visiting my mom, who now lives in the East Coast, and it is cold there, and I do not have the proper clothes. And I've actually been ordering some of my clothes from Quince, because all items on Quince are 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They're able to do that by partnering direct with top factories and cutting out the cost of middleman, and passes on the savings to you. And you can get sweaters and coats, which is what I got.
Not only do they use premium fabrics and finishes, they also work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. If you haven't treated yourself yet, get yourself that present you'll love this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/booktalk.